Finishers MMA, finishersmma.com, at Finishers. That's how you find them on social media. These guys have a show with us every Monday called Now We Go. You can check it out. Zach, JM, Thor, Grace, there's too many to name that come out of that school, and they are killers in the game. They are the biggest MMA jiu-jitsu school in the area, and they are owning the East Coast. You can contact them at 610-438-0746. Ask for Andrew. They are at 3761 Nicholas Street in Easton, PA. They have 2 locations as of now, Bethlehem and Allentown. They are growing into 3, 4, 5, 6. I would say they are taking over, but they already have. Check them out on all of their social media. They are awesome to follow. And if you're looking to get in shape, you're looking to choke people, you're looking to do anything at all to better your life, finishersmma.com. AllValleyRooter.net. That's not how you pronounce it all the time. I just say it that way. All Valley Rooter, Jared LaBarba. He is my plumber. He's the show's plumber. I'm getting him plumbing business all over, and I love that he is getting what he wants. He has 24-hour emergency service. He is certified, insured, and professional. You can follow him at All Valley Rooter. He's on social media, and you can find his information at allvalleyrooter.net. Jared came down over the weekend and he fixed a problem down here. He's super professional. I love him as a person. I love his business. He grew it, and he's doing his own thing. It's allvalleyrooter.net. It's 24-hour professional plumbing services. He can help you out with everything you need. It's 610-762-1656. He's certified, insured, and professional. Do not be afraid to contact him for any of your plumbing needs. Support Jared. Jared supports us. Luke Delmeyer Handmade Custom Knives. I love Luke. It's lukedelmeyer.com. He's a farrier, a bladesmith, and a blacksmith. He has custom knives, and the best part about it is you can take classes to make them. So not only can you take a class to learn how to make knives, at the end of the class, you get that knife. We're working on a project together. He started recently getting into chef knives, so he's starting to make chef knives. He makes hunting knives. He can make any of your needs as far as blacksmithing. That's at Luke Delmeyer on Instagram. That is the best way to follow him. You can see all the stuff that he's posting. He shares, he does raffles, he gives giveaways. Check out all things Luke Delmeyer at lukedelmeyer.com. We've had him on the show before. You can dig down in the library, listen to how he got started and where he's at now. I'm excited to work with Luke. He's a really good friend of the show, and I'm excited to showcase his chef knife that he's making me. Check out all things Luke Delmeyer at lukedelmeyer.com. Farrier, bladesmith, blacksmith. Rips Auto Detail. This guy is the best, hands down, in the area. I've interviewed him. I know his story. He's doing things that others aren't, and I love that he fucks with the show. I love getting the best of the best and having them support and be a part of this. That's what the sponsorship is for. I'm giving you the best people in their profession, and Rips is the best at auto detail. It's at Rips Auto Detail for Instagram. You follow that. He's showing you the different cars he does, and it's at 630 North Nelson Street in Allentown, PA. He offers paint correction, ceramic, SPS coatings, and more. This is appointment only, and it's ripsautodetail@gmail.com. You can call him at 484-553-1366. I tell you, follow him. If you don't know, you want to know more about what he does, follow him on Instagram. Follow Rips Auto Detail, and you can see all the things that Rip does. He's a big part of the show. We have a separate show we do called Road Dogs, and you can check out his past interviews and hear his whole story. I couldn't recommend this guy more for your auto, car, boat, plane. This guy literally has done everything, and he is the best in the area doing this. Rips Auto Detail. So this is Never Again Radio. No, we're at probably episode 120. Welcome to Never Again Radio, my friend. We met through Sarah, and then you were up doing Harvey. And I remember Sarah came down and did some photos here, and you guys were working on a project. And I was like, who's this guy that she's working with? And she's like, you got to talk to him. And then everything got super busy, and I never got to talk to you. And then I ran into you upstairs, and I was like, yes, I've been wanting to do this. And then I started getting into your work, and I'm excited for this show because we have very similarities on creativity, and I'm excited to peel back exactly what you do. introduce yourself and tell everybody basically what you do.
Yes. Well, first I want to say thank you so much, Mike,
Of
for
course.
having me on the show. Definitely is an honor to be able to be on your show and to be able to tell, a lot of the different nice opportunities and things that I'm working on for the community. So my name's Darin Barron Jr. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey. I moved to Pennsylvania, Bethlehem, Easton area in 2006. I've been in the arts in the community for a while now, and mainly like dance. I started off on the dance.
Is that
scene.
something you did growing up?
Yes, correct. I watched Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I remember getting the jacket and doing Beat It with my brother with the fork. Yeah. And my mom's like, stop it.
Yes.
How crazy was that back then, though, when like things were that big? Like Michael Jackson was massive.
Yeah.
Like Michael Jackson's video came on, the world stopped to watch it.
Yeah. That's the impact that Michael made with his music. And so like I just grew up watching him and watching like other artists like Usher and so many other artists, and then that really inspired me to get into dance and music and things like that. And so once that happened, then I started connecting with different dancers in the community.
Was it hard to do that around here? I had a couple friends. I had a friend, Mary Wolf, who was big into dance, and she had a dance studio over here. And a couple of years ago, I wanted to get into breakdancing, and it's hard to find. And I don't know where I'm looking, and now I'll have an avenue through you. But it's like, it seems like, even for back in the day, was that hard for you to get into dance or to find dance around here? Because the internet wasn't really, it wasn't, Instagram probably wasn't going.
Right. It was more like you had MySpace and Facebook.
That's
around
right.
That time.
MySpace.
So, yeah.
You can play a song.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
the page would freeze.
And the page would... It was actually not hard at all. I actually connected with a lot of people quickly. It was really cool. It was really cool because it really started in high school. And then, as soon as everyone knew that I loved to dance and things like that, that's when I started connecting with different dancers in the high school, outside the high school. Then before you know it, performing at pep rallies and connecting with different dance groups in the community, doing dance performances with them, traveling, going on like Hershey Park. Hip hop.
Did you ever do Dorney Park where they do the dance and the singing at like the stage off to the side?
No, so I haven't done that yet, but I know like some dancers they have performed there.
They're good places to start.
That's a good place to start. This is a good place to get exposure, you know, too, and things like that. But yeah, so that's my dance background. I've been dancing since I was little. So as I started getting into dance, and then I started getting into film. And so film, that passion has always been there ever since I was young too, because my friends and I, we would talk about a movie after we saw it, and we would talk about like the whole breakdown of the movie, like what happened here, what happened there, and what we would expect to see, and if there was like a prequel or something like that. But I was always exposed to film. And then, then it really started, it started really sparking because I was in community college, Northampton Community College, still dancing. But then it was like filmmakers that were there at the college that saw me dance that wanted me to perform in their film studio so that
were you at NAC for film?
No, I was in for business.
Okay.
So I went there for business, and then, my interest started to change. And then I transitioned into more of the arts, like dance and things like that, and film, but more so dance. But the filmmakers, the students, they would have me come into their studio and they would film me on their set. And we did like Michael Jackson, Thriller. We did different performances and things like that. We had a music artist that came that was filmed there, and myself and a few other dancers were like backup dancers. So my dancing at Northampton was becoming known.
Yeah.
And it was really nice because that's where it all started. That's where that exposure was starting for me. And then I started working on like projects, on like community projects. I worked on a project in dealing with the Reading youth community, the city of Reading, with a lot of the youths, the inner city youths, where We helped them to create public service announcements. It was with a nonprofit organization, Hayden Films Institute, where we were able to help them write screenplays, and then being able to help them to write scripts for PSAs, such as, like substance abuse, gang violence, and all those things. We had like a Hollywood actor come out. He's also a director in the industry. He came out, he helped the kids as well. And we brought them to Cookstown University. That's where we pretty much helped them right then and there, from the city of Reading. And then we gave them scholarship monies so that they can be able to go to school. So that project in itself really, really motivated me to be more community conscious.
That's it's super interesting that you say that, because you always see stuff like that and you don't realize what's behind it. And I never knew that, like, that. I was like, oh, well, that makes sense that people would be doing that. How did you even get into that from Northampton? Was it just people knew you were into creativity and film, or did you approach them and were like, hey, I think I can help you guys out with doing this project, I can kind of pull some things together? How do you even make that transition to doing that much charity?
Yeah, so I was actually doing that through dance. I was actually working on a project where I wanted to do like a short film. And this is going back to like 2011, like 2012. But these ideas were going through my mind at that age. And so I was working on a short film project where I wanted to get dancers, and I wanted to kind of do like a West Side Story kind of short film. And so I had like different filmmakers. I had like a whole team, and I had like community dancers that were in the community, and we all came together, and we were just coming up with these ideas and then trying to put this all together. But I needed help to do it. Someone who had this knowledge, someone who had this industry knowledge where I can be able to tap into and to be able to learn how this all works.
Yeah, it's important to realize that as when you try and start something and you don't know what you're doing, it's super important to not be afraid to try and ask somebody for help, or like to be honest with yourself of like, look, if I'm trying to level into doing like a full produced thing, we should really start tapping into someone that knows how to do it. I mean, before we started, I was telling you about everybody that I reach out to, and I just posted about it tonight, is the amount of knowledge I have from other people and not being afraid to just ask them how all this stuff works.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what I did. So I went to that's how I got introduced to Hayden Films Institute, because I saw them on Channel 69 News. They were being interviewed, and it was so funny because their mission is to empower and educate filmmakers, and to give them funding and to help them and to support them. And so once I started to learn about the organization, then I reached out to them and said, hey, I have this project that I'm working on. I wanted to see if you could maybe help out, or see what you can do on your end. So I went there. I got the chance to get to know their organization. I got the chance to really get to know who they were. And at the time they were trying to work on their own projects as well, because they had so much on their plate. And so I said, well, I'm looking to help out. I'm looking to see, well, how can I, show support? How can I be able to pitch in and to really get to know more about film, about community and things like that. And so I was willing to put my project like on the shelf for a little bit, so that I can be able to get this education that I needed. And it worked out to my favor. And so then they brought me on board on this it was called the Youth Media Initiative program. They brought me on board. We were able to fundraise. We were able to work with the kids. We were able to visit like the high schools, and we were able to visit the different colleges and to talk about the program. And then that's when everything started coming together. And then that's when I really knew that, wow, this is like really, really important for me as an artist and as a person, because it really shows that we have to put the community before ourselves, and we really give back, and we really show that love for people. That will continue in our artistry, that will continue to help us to grow to be the best that we can be. And so that chapter in my life really culminated into who I am today. And so the projects that I'm working on now, What's Your Story and My City dance series, these two projects, putting both together, are projects that are giving people the opportunity to tell their story and to bring their story to life through the power of film and photography. And so, this really gives uh, everyone walks of life, different people, walks of life, just to be able to tell their story, to come onto this platform and to speak passionately about how they started, to speak through movement, through dance, to tell their story through movement, and to be able to capture that and to be able to see the results after that. It's just amazing. And I was able to witness that the other day. I had gotten an email from a film piece for What's Your Story that I did. She was telling me that so many people were, they were moved by her story. They were moved by the film, that it moved them to take action. It moved them to, it was something that they needed to hear. And that, when she sent that email to me, and that right there, it got me so, I welled up inside, because I knew that, wow, this is actually it's making an impact on people. And so, again, so it just really goes back to all the things that I've learned over the years and how I've matured as an artist, as a person, and how this is all just coming together and formulating into what it is today.
I want to go back to, there's so much I want to touch on, and we have so many similarities on how I interview, and we both really enjoy showing the parts of people that they don't notice because they've already gone to an ahead. And then when you get to show them that in an interview or showcase that in film, and when, it's nice when somebody says to you, hey man, like when you got that email, like she doesn't look at herself in that light that you showed her. And then for her to be like, wow, like I am this person that's doing all these things. And then for you to touch her in that way, and then for her to send you that email and then move your emotions, it's my favorite thing to do with people. I had a guy on here the other day for pancakes and protein shakes. And like, he does all this stuff for charity, and he's so selfless. And I could tell in the expressions on his face when I started interviewing and showing him the stuff that he's doing, like, it's like, oh, it's like he's so busy helping people, he doesn't even realize. I'm sure he realizes what he's doing, but to get him to it, like, see it through an interview, it's one of my favorite things to do. Mm-hmm. When you were going through the film stuff and you started making your films and doing the impact through the youth group and stuff, what was the first piece that you actually completed and you were like, wow, like this? Because I'm sure when you got involved and you were doing all that, well, like, what was the very first thing that you guys accomplished that you were like, I'm making a difference, I'm moving stuff, we're doing stuff for the community, and like kind of caught you into being obsessed with doing that for that point of your life?
It was when the first time I knew that this was really making an impact was when people started to ask about the project, when people started reaching out to me when I was doing the dance project for the short film project in Northampton, and the way people responded to it, the way how people were excited about it. It was at the point, Mike, where I was in Northampton and I had we were in like this it was a cafeteria, but it's like a big space where they have like the stage and everything like that. It was at the point where I had like the whole room was people were sitting there listening to what I'm pitching to them about the project. It was at that point to where people were so interested in learning about it, where they were like, well, how can I help? How can I show that support for it, in bringing the dance community, bringing artists together to create something that everyone can benefit from and that everyone can really see, how their value. And so when I saw that response, I was like, wow, like this is something that I really want to do. Like this is something that is community based. It's something that really helps a lot of people who perhaps may not know where to go to get that support, because support is always important. But it just always takes that person that really is willing to put things together, they're willing to put these kind of things together to be able to create something for others so that they can be able to grow, so that they can continue their passion. And so when I saw that happening, the response of that, that's when it really hit me, where I was like, wow, like people are actually like, it was at the point we were holding auditions for the dance project. This is going back years ago. So there were people, we were holding auditions at Lehigh University. You know, I was talking to different people in the university about what we were doing, and they were so willing to support, just the support aspect of it. And that was years ago, and still today, people are still supporting. Why? Because of that reputation, the reputation that I was able to have, and still today, even now. So I'm even more happier because now I see why it was so important to go back years ago and to see how things were able to take place, how things were able to fall into place, and it was all timing. It was all timing, and even through the Hayden Films Institute, the program we worked on for the youths in Reading, it was when we got to the point where, okay, now it was time to bring the kids to Cookstown University. When I saw like how everything was set up, I mean, you had like the mayor, you had the university president, you know, we had all of these things, and this is something that we were just putting together, that we were constructing over time, and seeing that all happening before my very eyes, it was just like, wow, like I was a part of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, just to see the youths come in from Reading. People know that Reading is, you know, because of the rep that Reading gets, you know, as far as the violence and everything like that. This was something that really, this project was really something that really helped the kids to see that it's not the violence. It's not just something that you should focus on and that you should be known for. You know, the city of Reading should be known for educated, good, young people who really want to be the best that they can be. And so giving them the resources to succeed is important. Giving them these resources to grow is important. And, you know, and that's what the project did. It really gave them these resources. It helped them to see that they can do it, that they put their mind to it, they can do it. All they need is that encouragement. They need that support. And so, and that's exactly what we did. And I was seeing that, and that really helped me to see that, you know, wow, this is something that I really want to do. And that this is something that I really want to be able to put together on my own one day, so that I too can be able to help others and to continue in my artistry as well.
And then when you decided that, that's when you took the step to start creating your own personal project. And then that's what came out of doing all that work with the community.
Exactly.
What was the first project that you started doing, or like, how did you go about combining what's your story? Because then I also saw that you were doing the dance stuff, and I think it's awesome that you do both. And I you know, we were saying earlier, like where you start keeping one creative avenue, I think it's important to have multiple creative avenues going on, because you can just go back from one and bounce one off the other. And I really like that you had two things going on. Where did that whole thing start? And then I know the backstory on like how it got there, but there's steps when you first start doing it, when you're like, hey, I think I'm going to do this highlight thing. And then, you know, you got to get all those ideas together. What was that like, getting all that projects together? Because you have the experience and you know how to get it done now. Now you just have to take all of your ideas and all the things that you want and put it into place. So what was that like?
Yeah. So for What's Your Story, how that came about, my colleague, a good friend of mine, Anthony Marcano, Anthony Marcano, he got me into photography years ago, going back to Northampton. Anthony, his passion for photography and his eye is just amazing. It's inspiring, because when he took pictures of me, that when I saw the end result of that, I was inspired, and I was like, man, like, how does he do that? Like, how does he get that? So Anthony and I, our relationship goes way back to Northampton. But fast forward to today, 2 years ago, when I went to the job that I'm at now, Anthony was there. I didn't know Anthony worked there. And so we connected, and we were just talking, everything like that. You know, us both now, I told him, he knew I was in photography now, getting into photography and things like that. And so, you know, we were both talking, and we were like, you know, we should really collaborate and come up with a really cool idea to maybe help stimulate employee morale at where we work. we were inspired by like the different canvases, the posters that they had at the workplace, where you had someone who was well known and you had like a quote that was underneath their picture. And so, you know, when we saw that, we were like, man, what if we did something like that for the employees here?
Yeah.
And then that would be able to help everyone at the workplace to get to know each other, to be
Yeah.
able to create
What a
that.
great idea, because that would really make everything a little bit more personable than just having somebody on the wall. And for even the fact that you guys are even thinking about that, doing that at work, like what a creative itch you guys constantly have going on.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly why we were like, you know, we need to create dialogue here, you know, like we should start that. And so Anthony and I, when we came up with this idea, we were going to pitch it to HR. And so when we pitched it to HR loved the idea. I mean, we had
There's no way they wouldn't know.
Yeah, it was just like, to them, they were like, oh my goodness, this is such an awesome idea. And so,
and
you know,
who would ever approach HR with stuff like that? They're probably just used to getting problems constantly, where two people come up, they're like, hey, I think we can make the work atmosphere a lot better. They're like, okay.
yeah.
They're probably like, oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was like, so when we were like, okay, like let's go pitch this idea. And so, you know, we did, and they sat down with us, and we talked to two people. We talked to one manager, and we talked to one of the HR reps. And the one manager, she just almost teared up, because she said that this idea was just so beautiful, and that something like this had never been done at Stitch Fix, at the workplace where I'm at now. And so when they took this idea back to the team talked about it, and they were like, this is an awesome idea. And so that's when they invited Tony and I to pitch the idea in a room. So we had different team members there, and you had someone that was sitting in on video chat, and we showed them pictures.
But the best part about it is you're used to doing a pitch, because you did all this stuff with the youth community where you had to pitch all that. So this is normal for you. There's no nerves there. You know what I mean? Like it's so important that people pay attention to. It's the foundations of what you do with your time when you want to start a project. And starting a project may be something that's real fast, but if you want to do something long-term or get to where you're going, sometimes you got to do stuff for other people before you do something for yourself.
Exactly. And that's where it goes back to how everything comes back full circle.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we were presenting this idea in the room for the presentation, like everyone loved it. It was a go. But in order for it to be greenlit, we had to pitch it to the general manager. And so when they pitched it to the general manager, it took about maybe a little bit of time. But then we got the email back saying, hey, you got approved. We can move forward. And so we did. We started moving forward. We started scheduling the photo shoots. We would schedule photo shoots with the different employees, and we would go out and we would take pictures of them.
How did the employees react to the idea of what you guys wanted to do?
Oh, they loved it. Yeah, they loved it. They were so excited about it, because a lot of them never been in the photo shoot before. They've never seen themselves professionally, a picture taken of them.
And they're going to feel more like they're going to feel a part of the workplace regardless, because now you're making them feel more at home, because you're putting their ideas and their face on a wall.
Exactly. And then after that, we would sit down with them, and we would like not interview them, but we would listen to their story. We would take notes. We would write down things like that.
Now I see where it's coming from.
Yeah. So then
this is cool.
Yeah. So then we would write down their notes and everything like that, and then we would put everything together. And then they would put them in a newsletter. It was almost like before it came out, the HR, they were putting out previews. So they had Tony and I. We had someone that took a professional picture of Tony and I. It was almost like a poster kind of thing where they had it in the newsletter. And they would like show like previews of, hey, this is what's your story coming soon to Stitch Fix, And so as this was growing and people were starting to learn about it, then COVID hit. And so
it was similar what we were talking about before in my situation, but it's like to have all that work, get all that stuff done, And then it's just such a bizarre time because if you rewind back, no one remembers the beginning of COVID. I remember the first week when no one was on the road. Remember that one? Like nobody was driving
Yeah.
anywhere, and it was like, well, it seemed like a scary movie, but man, to get all that creativity, all that stuff going, and then it just boom.
It just, yeah. It
So
was,
what were the steps to that?
so
Or after that,
so after that, even before COVID hit, I was telling Tony, I said, Tony, this can grow even within the community.
yeah.
Like this was like more of a community project, because the only thing that was really the downer of it was that we were going through a company. And so you have to like go through different channels.
Well, see,
and you
I
have
wanted to touch on that where when I did stuff with the Borough Park and you made it sound like this all happened in a day, there is so much back end work where 90% of the people won't do it because you got to go to meetings, you got to wait on emails, you got to send stuff, you got to do stuff after work. Like it's work on top of work during work. And it's like, I think that's important to showcase as well. And I wanted to touch on it, and I'm glad you brought it up, is this isn't something that was like, oh, okay, it's moving along. Like there's a lot of work that goes into setting up even what you're doing now is a lot of work, let alone to do it in a corporate situation where it's got to go through ladders of people that are trying to run a business, but at the same time be respectful of the fact that you're trying to help out. But you're really just kind of sending them emails and they have to deal with this on top of their daily schedule. It's a lot of work.
It is. And I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because going through a corporate business, they have to focus on the business first.
Yeah.
And then like obviously your creativity and your passion for this project, yes, you want to see it, you want to see the ball rolling faster, but it doesn't work like that because you're pretty much on their time.
And then it's uncomfortable because you don't know how far you can push that pedal down because it's your job. And if you upset somebody and they can cancel the whole thing and be like, look, I'm not doing this. This is taking too much of your time up. Are you even doing anything at work? I'm not saying that was a situation for you, but it could easily get into a point where if you went too heavy and hard, you could become an annoyance to somebody who's trying to run a business.
Exactly. And it's interesting because those were some of the thoughts that I had. I felt like we were like, are we getting on their nerves? Or
yeah, it's weird when you
start.
start doubting yourself in a project, especially like that, where it's like nothing but good stuff.
Yes, exactly. And that's what, and it was almost like that. And that was the frustrating part, was like, we wanted to see this, to see this grow and grow and grow. But at the same time, it was like, we didn't know if people, were really supporting it, if there was just something going on that we didn't know about. So we really didn't have that much control over it, because it was through a corporate business. However, when COVID hit,
was the idea finished before COVID hit? Like, did you guys get the stuff up on the walls?
We were actually in the process of launching it. We were getting ready to launch it.
Yeah.
The first few stories that we were working on, we had it all laid out, Mike.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was like a magazine, like a digital magazine.
And then in the background, you just keep hearing this weird stuff about, there's a disease going on. What I remember hearing about COVID, like, a couple days before it was like a thing, and being like, shut up, like whatever, like I'm just working, let me work, let me do my thing, and I'm just down here chugging away, and then someone's like, hey, the whole world's stopping. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's difficult when you're that locked in and you're trying to do all that stuff, and then you start seeing the news, you're like, what is all this?
Yeah, I mean, we were hit like out of the blue. Like it was just like we weren't expecting that. But we were hearing about what was happening and the virus and things like that. But we didn't know that this was actually going to shut down everything.
How long were you guys down for?
We were down for like a few months.
Yeah.
It was about a few months. And then April, everything was starting slowly coming back. Like because it was viewed as essential for workplace. And then they started slowly getting people back and things like that. But the project itself was we had decided, I said, Tony, I think we should introduce this to the community, because now they have to focus on the business aspect now because of these few months that we've lost because of the virus.
Everybody's scrambling.
Everybody is scrambling, so it wasn't a good time. And so I said, let's hold off on it. And we held off on it for a little while, and then when things started getting back,
What were you doing when you held off on it? You're a creative person. It was probably driving you nuts.
yeah, it was. I mean, I just focused on like other photography. I was taking pictures. I was doing some weddings and things like that, just working, doing some photography stuff. And then like when I started seeing things happening and things were starting to like slowly come back, then I had put out on Instagram, "Hey, what's your story is returning soon." And so, again, I was talking to Tony. I said, "Hey, I think this is this." We were pretty much like organizing, getting the layout, getting everything prepped.
But that was a good thing about COVID is there was a weird 2 months where everything was stopped. And there was a lot that I was able, and I was telling you before this as well, and I bring it up to a lot of business people, is there's things that happened during COVID in that 2 months that like if you paid attention to, you actually had 2 months to yourself. I cleaned up the back end of this business. I cleaned this business up. Like I was getting ready to go because I knew we would go back to somewhat of being back open, but there was 60 days to almost 90 days where like there's a lot of stuff that I fixed that I could never fix because the world was moving. You know what I mean? Before COVID, it was just go, stop. And then I'm like, all right, you can either panic or we can figure this out. And there's a lot of stuff you can clean up because everything stopped completely. So is that in that time, is that when you guys were like, okay, let's get this layout finished. Let's work on this. It's creative. It's going to boost the morale. And you know what I mean? Like you're working on what you love.
Yes, exactly. And so that was when we were like, okay, let's get the layout. Let's start organizing for What's Your Story. Because now we were prepping to bring this out to the community. And so we wanted to make sure that, What's Your Story had a home. And then I was going to say, okay, well, I can open up my site and put What's Your Story on my site, my photography site, to give it a home, to give it layout. We organize it, we construct it. And then eventually down the line, What's Your Story would have its own site. So we were in the process of getting things back up again. And so once that happened, then I started pitching the idea. Then I started like connecting with different people, and people were like, "Oh, this is awesome, and this is a really cool idea, especially right now during this pandemic." People need encouragement. People need like stories like these to really inspire them and motivate them and things like that, and to really, create that positive dialogue and to really create that unifying of community, and to really get to see how everyone is, staying upbeat. But at the same time, their stories are encouraging them to continue to stay positive and to continue to show that support for each other. And so once we started getting the ball rolling back again, that's when everything started to fall into place. And so once Tony and I, we were hitting this like 2019. This is like the middle of 2019 into the summer. Like we've been working on this project for a while. But at the same time, to see it where it is now, What's Your Story, and to see that impact that it's making, and people telling their story and bringing that to life through film, and people in the community seeing, oh my goodness, I know that individual. Or wow, that is so cool. Like, man, like him and I go where her and I, we go way back. Or wow, I didn't know this about this individual, or someone can come and say, wow, like this person is in my community. I can relate to that person because that's something that I'm going through. And that's when they make that connection with that individual. They can reach out to this individual. And so that's what What's Your Story is about. It's really about helping people to know that you're not alone. And that these stories are in your community. It's not someone outside of your community. Yes, you can look up a story like of someone that you look up to, right? And you can find that to be inspiring, but it hits different when it's from your own community. When it's someone that lives 5 minutes away from you, and this is someone that's similar to your background or something that you want to get into. Like it could be cooking. It could be film. It could be, dance or music, whatever the case may be. and you see their story, and it's like, wow, like I could relate to that person, and it's like it really creates that relationships, those connections that you can make, that you can easily make within your community.
I love because a lot of this directly with Harvey upstairs. Like he told me his story when he first moved in, and I never met him before. And you meet somebody new, it's just like, oh, all right. And he starts telling me his story, and I'm like, man, that's an awesome story. And then when you highlighted it, and I got to watch Harvey, go through like what you guys do with the people that are on, and I was like, man, what an awesome story to tell. And then when you came down here, you were like, yo, people were hitting me up and be like, I got my hair cut by Harvey when he was 6 years old. Like it's awesome to take those moments that, because that's a moment that everybody has with Harvey. Like when Harvey tells that story, it's a very unique story, but then to capture that story and then put it out there for people to be like, hey, that's really cool that like this guy was cutting hair, it went from him sweeping hair at a barbershop to like now he owns 3 barbershops and like he's doing his own thing, and the guy works nonstop. And it's like to show that to people, especially young people coming up, or to anyone who's trying to be motivated to take a step forward. And we were talking about it as well. It's very difficult to jump from your 9 to 5 into your passion, and especially if you're doing the 9 to 5 before your passion, like it's even harder. But then for you to highlight that, and that's the thing that I try and drive home on most of these flagship podcasts, is like there are people doing this. Like you don't have to be afraid to take the leap. And it's like, I always encourage everyone, but the fact that you highlight that on film and you capture it very well, your production's awesome. When I started seeing the actual product, I was like, man, like there's so much time and effort and thought put into what you're doing.
Yes, you are absolutely right, Mike. There is a lot of thought and a lot of time that goes into it. It's you when you're passionate about something like film or podcasts or whatever the case may be, that passion will drive you to do the best job that you can, and to help you to do the best work possible for each and every person that you work with.
Yeah, and then what's cool about it as well is that drive and that passion. Like when you have a goal and it's set at an impossible standard, and then you achieve that goal, and you start like, how I put this much energy and love into doing this is how then like it makes it easier for me to put this much care into anything I'm doing. And then it's like, then you start being able to like really show the best parts of yourself in a million different aspects. And it's kind of life-changing when you start really putting yourself out there and putting 100% into, I don't have to do this much production. It's just what I wanted to do. And that was such a hard goal with no money to accomplish. And it's like, now that I can accomplish it, it's changed my life to be like, oh, well, you can't really tell me I can't do anything because I built a TV studio in a small town in a basement. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot where I came from, and just working 9 to 5s. It's not easy to get here, but once you do, then you start dumping that passion and that stuff. It just becomes what you do and how you are all the time. And then that's when people don't realize, like Harvey and these other people, and even myself, when you're interviewing them or you're doing this, is like, you have to show them at some point was like, hey man, what you're doing is extremely special. You just don't realize it because that's how you are all the time now. Because I feel once you get there, it's just who you are. And then you just stay there, and then it's just being that person in every aspect of your life. And it's completely changed my life and made me a totally different person for the better.
Exactly. And you have to have work ethic.
Yeah.
You have to
that
have
was
work
pounded
ethic.
in me by my father at a very young age.
Yeah. You have to have work ethic, and as an entrepreneur myself, and Harvey and so many others, like we have to try to encourage, because right now in this generation, you have your social media platforms, right? And now it's easy to bypass the hard work.
Absolutely.
You know
Absolutely,
what I'm saying?
man.
So
I remember doing this before Instagram. So it's like when Instagram popped, remember when Instagram didn't do videos? And it was just pictures? But by the time they started doing videos, the first thing I thought is, I could run commercials for never again. And then I started cutting out promos and doing these because it wasn't even a minute. I think it was 15 seconds or something in the beginning, and then they finally went to a minute. When they went to a minute, I'm like, I can do a minute, and then I was like, all right, let's go. And I started cutting promos and doing stuff for different people, and like that's how I learned editing. But it's like once I had a platform to, there was a time when you weren't able to do anything. When I started the apparel company, it was Facebook, and I was selling on Facebook, and that was a time where Facebook let you sell stuff and gave you a reach. Now they throttle it, and you got to pay for it. But it's easy to get on a platform now. But I mean, I'm so glad I did it when I had to work harder for it, which made everything better for me. But you could definitely take all the shortcuts and think it's going to work out, but it's the hard work that's what it does.
Yes, exactly. And the hard work, it molds you to work even harder.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It molds you, because once you know what hard work is, you're gonna be willing to accept it. You're gonna be willing to accept it and say, you know what, where I want to go and where I want to be, I know that I'm gonna put out a video, and 10 times out of, it's very, very, it's a small window, but you might get viral, right? Someone puts out a video, depending on what you do, you might get viral, and that person might end up, who knows? But the point is that, is it about getting viral, or is it about really doing something that you're passionate about? You're staying true to yourself as an artist, and you really want to put in that work. You really want to put in that grind to be able to get to where you want to be.
I think in the beginning, the fishing bait to make you do the hard work is the viral. And then after a while, I was like, the numbers and all that kind of fade away. And then I was just like, okay, like this is just something I really love doing. Mm-hmm. Like if somebody gave me a bunch of money, I would still do this. Like it's just something that's in me to do this all the time. So I think in the beginning, it was a little bit of like, like where you kind of want to trick yourself into like, a diet or going to the gym, however you want to figure out how to get things going. Because for me, it's like, I don't mind working hard, but it takes a little bit to get me going. So it's like, in the beginning, I was like, all right, cool. Let me see what I can do on here. Let me see how many numbers I can get on here. And then after a while, I was just like, all right, well, I'm already making an impact and I'm changing people's lives, and people are hitting me up and saying like, man, I'm really glad you talked about depression because I relate to that. And the other day you said this, and then I caught myself from having a bad day. And then that stuff started making me be like, okay, there's purpose to this. And then I stopped chasing for the viral. Yes, do I hope, something goes viral? Absolutely. Right. It'd be awesome for this to be easier. But at the same time, I always take the hard road. So, but I think it's fishing bait that you make yourself go towards it. And then after a while, it's just the nature of, you're going to work hard regardless, whether you're at that job or you're doing this and whatnot. So it's like, if I want to trick myself into it by hoping something goes viral, there's that aspect of it too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that going viral, I mean, that goes back to like, yourself that you put into work. You know what I'm saying? So that's like the reward if that happens. But at the same time, you're already succeeding.
Yeah.
You're already succeeding. You know, it's like, it's like us as artists and as entrepreneurs, we're already succeeding because we're doing what we love to do.
Yep.
And so by having that mentality and not getting discouraged, because it's easy for people to get discouraged. And that's why I love What's Your Story, because What's Your Story is a platform that really helps people to know that, we appreciate your story. We appreciate who you are. And it reinforces the reasons why they do what they do. And so when they're on What's Your Story and I'm interviewing them, right, and I'm filming them, this is their story. This is who they are. This is why they do what they do. And so when they see the finished product, right, that reinforces that feeling of not giving up and still continuing to do what they do, and knowing that their story is going to make an impact in someone's life, even if it's just one person. That impact is being made. And so, What's Your Story, My City Dance Series, even for My City Dance Series, like,
yeah, let's get into that a little bit because we kind of got to the point where, all right, so how did that start? Because you're doing all this. First of all, who was the first story that you dropped
for
My Story?
For my city or what's your story?
What's your story?
Oh, what's your story? So the first story that we dropped was actually a girl that I worked with. She's a musician. She's a music artist. She loves to sing. She loves music. And when she asked me to do pictures for her, she wanted to take pictures for her channel, for her YouTube channel. And so as I was taking pictures of her, she loved the pictures. Pictures came out beautiful. And then I came up with and then I had the idea. I was like, I would love to feature you on What's Your Story. And I told her, hey, can you send me, I'm going to send you questions. Could you send me your response to these questions? And then I want to feature you on What's Your Story, so people can read your story. They can see your passion for music, can see how you got into music. And so she was like, yeah, sure, definitely. And that's when she started typing her response, and then she sent her story and things like that. And then
how many stories deep were you before you went into the we're good, we're gonna keep going. Unless you got to get out of here.
Oh, no, worry, I'm good.
No, I want to finish the whole thing out.
Yes, yeah. So she actually we were actually doing the stories before the site went up. And so, and this was where we work now. And so we were doing this. We already had that momentum. We were already in the groove. We knew what we were doing because we were doing it in 2019 at Stitch Fix. And so we kind of had the idea of how this is working, the setup of it. And so we were already sitting down with people at the workplace. We were taking time off the floor to sit down with them and to interview them and to do those things. And so so those stories, and that's the thing too. It's like, because of COVID, we weren't able to release or get their stories released through the company, through the newsletter medium. But at the same time, though, we were still able to take what we've learned and to apply it now into the community. And so once we started getting that ball rolling again, right, when we started opening things back up slowly, that's when I started introducing that. And then before you know it, I started getting the dancers, because the dancers too, it wasn't just their movement. Going back to my city dance series. This series is really about, this platform is giving dancers the opportunity, like resources, the opportunity to express themselves through movement, to tell their story through movement. Because in dance, dancers tell their story through movement. You can see their emotions. You can see their feelings, their expression, their story, based on where they come from, based on how they feel. And being able to see that being translated through movement is amazing. And
it's almost just a subdivision of what you were doing already. It's just a different palette of how they're telling the story.
Exactly.
And that's when I started seeing that. I was like, oh, this is cool. And you do such a professional job with like when you were doing the poster, like the My City poster. And then I saw the one kid who was like commenting because he was so fueled that he was on the poster. And there's just, that whole project alone is awesome. But then the fact that it came from telling a story, but it's still What's Your Story, but now it's in dance form.
Yes.
How was that to transition into another thing that you love doing?
So that transition, and that itself too, it's similarly connected, right, to What's Your Story in My City. And so with My City dance series, what I've been able to do is I've been able to not just have the dancers tell their story through movement, but to also tell their story in written form. And so to talk about life.
Yeah.
Talk about life, because we look at dancers, we look at them, oh my goodness, he's a good dancer, right? Or we look at dancers and say, man, like, my goodness, like, I love your dancing, this, and that. But we just know them as dancers. But how can we really get to know them, their life story, right? How do they get into dance? Why do they dance? What are some of their struggles that they go through? Because in dance, when you have dancers that struggle in life, dance is a medium for them. That's like an outlet for them to be able to get those struggles out through movement. But that goes back to life. It goes back to things that they go through. And so not just showing or entertaining people through the film aspect of movement, but actually getting people to see this is who so-and-so is. Because now I know who this person is. I know this person's background because they told us their life story. And so featuring them on What's Your Story is an added component that gives them that opportunity to get their story out there to the masses, and that people can get to read their story, not just see their film, but to also read their story, to visit the site as well.
What's it like to see all of this evolving and more coming out of it? And I mean, I'm a person who likes to pay attention to like pattern behavior. So, I mean, if you look at the pattern behavior of what you're doing, it's you learn something and then you create something out of it, and then you learn something, and it's evolving. In like how you were saying about me in the beginning, like you have all this stuff going on and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now you're doing these two things. It's like, how do you feel where you're at with like what's coming down the pipe? Do you look at it that way? Or are you just going to focus on doing these two things and see what grows out of both of them? Or is it still too early to see it? But you have to have paid attention at this point to see the growth and to see what you went from doing projects with the youth to now where you're doing fully produced, high production stuff that you're putting your heart and soul into. And when I see other people doing that, I get excited, because that's somebody who's not going to stop creating. It doesn't matter if you, like I said, if you got a bunch of money, you'd still be creating. So like where you're at now, and you have both these projects going on and you have momentum behind them and you're showcasing all these awesome people, what do you think is going to happen now with what you're doing?
My hopes are that, you know, eventually, I would like to see perhaps maybe someone would be willing to do like a partnership opportunity where I can be able to partner with someone that has maybe a bigger platform, that I would be able to maybe take both of these projects and to combine it and to partner with someone that has a bigger platform that can be able to showcase these talented, gifted people in our community on a bigger platform, giving them that opportunity. I foresee this perhaps, you know, What Your Story could have its own studio. I mean, I've gotten feedback where people have said that it's almost like I'm watching a show, and it's like, and that right there, it really helps me to appreciate that. Hey, maybe one day What Your Story might have a studio where it could have like opportunities where people would be able to be interviewed on there, or they have a film aspect where we go out into the community, we film them, we bring it back to the studio, this and that, and we combine those things together. I think for me right now, I've just been in that moment on focusing on building it, constructing it, and it's growing because people are learning about it. People that are a part of it are reposting it, they're resharing it with their networks, and their network is sharing it, and then so on and so forth. And so being able to see that that response, that impact, is hopefully going to head towards something that maybe that one person, because it only takes one person to really see the value in it and to really say, you know what, wow, this is really awesome. Let me see, let's figure out maybe some partnership opportunities or collaborations and things like that. I appreciate George Lucas. I watched his documentary, and he's one of the many filmmakers that I really enjoy and I really am really inspired by, because his story is coming from American Graffiti to getting into what he really wanted to do, was to work on his idea, Star Wars. And so he pitched his script to the different studios. A lot of the studios said no. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't see it. They didn't see, well, the value in it.
And then to see how far that's come now. Like Star Wars was big back then. And like they were doing things back then, but then they had the rebirth of it, which was like, oh, all right, they did the new ones. And then the fact that it's still going, where then now Disney acquired it, and then look at everything from the series coming out and the Mandalorian, and like, that's still one guy's idea from way back in the day all the way now to, I mean, it pretty much is what's running Disney Plus.
Yes, exactly. And so, I mean, you look at George Lucas, you look at how he was just one day just drawing Star Troopers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he was writing down ideas, Obi-Wan, and different names of different characters, but this was all coming from his head. And so he was so passionate about it that he was willing to shop his idea. He was shopping his script to different studios to see who would be willing to take this on. And it only took one person, and that one person was someone known in the industry to give directors flexibility and those opportunities to grow and to be able to capture their ideas and to do it and to actually film it, to get the budget to do it. And that's exactly what happened. And so George Lucas, he went through those challenges. He went through the challenges of filming Star Wars. But at the same time, he kept going because he was passionate about what he did. And so my point going back to that was that, you know, when you have passion, you love what you do, you have to endure whatever comes. You have to endure the challenges. You have to endure the trials. But at the same time, you know, based on what your vision is for it, this is your vision. This is something that you're passionate about. This is something that you're willing to do, and you're willing to fight for it. And so when I think about these two projects, I know the vision, I know the value of it because it involves people and it involves supporting and helping people. And when it comes down to those things, you can't go wrong.
No.
You can't go wrong. And it's something that's important too, because you think about it. It's in our community. There's a lot of things that a lot of people are doing, but then, you know, I get feedback, and sometimes people say, man, I wish they did things more like this for the dance community, or I wish they kind of put more emphasis on this, and this. But sometimes it really takes us who have the resources to create something that can be able to help bring those resources to the forefront, to bring something like these platforms to the forefront of Lehigh Valley. I mean, you look at a lot of things that start in small towns or cities that grow, and then they impact people outside of the community.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are so many inspiring stories where you had things like this happening within smaller communities, but then it made an impact in the community, but now it's growing outside the community. And then to say, wow, this came from Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, like, that's awesome. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, the goal is to try to make Lehigh Valley a hub where you have some talented, artistic people that love to do what they love to do, but to create that hub where it says, hey, like, you don't have to go outside of Lehigh Valley. Yeah, there's opportunities and things like that. Yeah, of course you want to grow and things like that, but we want to create those opportunities here for people too, and to be able to help push that, to put emphasis on that too. And it really starts with us. It starts with us. We have the resources to do it. We should do it.
I don't think there's a better way to close out than on that statement and everything you said, because it just hits home with me so much. And I remember when I started doing all this, I always thought I had to leave this area. Oh, I got to get out of here. I'm never going to be able to do any of this stuff around here. Who's doing this stuff around here? And then when I started doing podcasts, that's when I started really realizing the amount of people that are actually doing creative stuff. And it might not be the dance community, like a lot of the stuff you said, there's the tattoo community and there's all these different communities, and it takes people to kind of stand out and kind of push boundaries for that community to grow more. And I think it's also important to let people know that there is stuff in the Lehigh Valley, and you don't gotta leave. I started an apparel company from nothing. Like when I was 28, there was no resources around here to do anything. I mean, it's grown, and I remember when Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations, he used to do my sweatshirts way back in the day, and he was doing it out of his shed. He's running the Lehigh Valley on apparel, printing apparel right now. But it's like it takes people like that to create things in this community, and those people need to be highlighted to kind of motivate more people. And it's like, hey man, you don't got to leave this area. You don't have to leave this area to create. There's all this stuff going on here. There are resources through the community college. There are resources to get things done through community centers like yourself, where you learned how to do all that stuff by helping out people down before. And it's like, I remember when I first started getting the stuff done with the skate park, it's like, I just wanted to do that because my friends' kids were afraid to go down there because they kind of let it go. And then it's like, when I got involved and stepped in and made all those changes, it wasn't easy work, but doing all of that is what made me be able to talk to people and get them to pay to sponsor this podcast, because I knew how to interact with people on a professional level where I had to wear a shirt and a tie. You know, when you're asking somebody for money monthly, you can't be like, hey man, Clyde said the money. You got to talk to people correctly as an adult. And it's like, you know, I didn't have the best upbringing as far as like what I allowed myself to be an adult turn into. I did a lot of stupid stuff young, and I didn't really get my act together until I started this business. But these things that I learned creating this business made me to be able to leave a job, a government job, to do this for a living. And it's like, if I can do that in this town of Nazareth that has every reason to not succeed because they constantly shoot themselves in the foot, it should show enough people that, like, you don't got to leave the area, man. We have all the resources we need here, and these people need to come out and shine a little bit brighter. And I love that you showcase them and I showcase them, and there's all these different people doing important things. And I think it's important that other people should see that that's going on in this area. And hats off to you for doing it. Hats off to you for doing it on a high production level. You don't take shortcuts in anything you do. I see that there's the lighting, everything you do. It's all top-notch professional stuff that you've acquired the resources around here. You didn't leave and learn all this stuff. You learned it all within a 10-mile radius of this studio. And I think it's really important that people see what you're doing. And I like that it runs parallel with what I'm doing. And this door is always open for you to, you know, like, I see what you're doing. It's like, you could have your own studio and you could have it as a center, where an art center where people can rent it out from you and different things. And you can have people coming in and out. You could be doing photography stuff. You're the type of person, you should be teaching people how to do this. You know what I mean? Like, you could really start breaking boundaries and running your own stuff. And I see you doing it. And I'm way more excited now that I interviewed you to know that you're a person of growth and you keep growing, and you're going to grow out of what you're doing now. And to see what that's coming down the pipe is, I can't wait till you have your own studio. It starts with talking about it. And you're a person who talks about stuff, then you get it, you put the work in, and then you get it done. But you could be doing this in podcast form. You could be doing this there's a million things that you could take this idea to. And I can't wait to see you grow it into it. And yes, I think it'd be cool if somebody paired up with it, but I don't think that's going to be the end story. The end story is going to be you busting your ass and doing it yourself, because that's how it's been the whole time. I don't know. Yeah. I really have enjoyed interviewing you. I think the backstory to all this was very important, and I think what you do for the community is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike. It's just, you know, continuing to see the support, and to really see how people are really seeing the growth and the how this project is evolving. What's Your Story and My City Dance series, and just continuing to keep going. And
that's all I ever tell anybody. Keep going. Keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah.
I did it when I wasn't drinking. I told myself to do it all the time, and I was sober for 10 years, and just keep going. And then anybody who hits me up and they want advice, and you learn over years that people have to make these decisions on their own. And the best advice I give anyone who's being creative or trying to get over a hump, just keep going, man.
Exactly.
Keep going. You can ask any of my friends. My friend texted me the other day. He's like, man, I can't believe, like, everything you said you wanted to do, you're doing. And it's been a crazy ride to get to where I'm at. And I can't wait to, you know, I said to you, I know where this is going to be in 5 years. Like, I'm excited to be thinking that way, because I've seen the accomplishments from, I started this in a bar. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. It's like, and sometimes I have to stop and look back on it and be like, man, like, that was nuts. It was one idea. It came off of a time in my life, and now it's to the point where it's like, I am paying sponsors, I pay my bills with the things coming in. Like, did I think that it would be to this level? Yeah, but I didn't know this would be the outcome. And that's the point of keep going. Mm-hmm. You don't know. If you start something and stop, that's what happens. You start and stop. If you don't stop, eventually something will give. It's hard work. It pays off. I didn't realize the definition of hard work till I started doing this, and I was like, oh, okay, all that stuff you did way back in the day, that was all that hard work. And yeah, it did pay off. It's something stupid people tell you, but if you keep working really hard, you can get to your goals.
Yes, exactly. You just have to have that mentality of just working hard.
Yeah.
And you can't be afraid of hard work.
No.
Because hard work, it helps you to grow as a person.
It really does.
It really does. It really teaches you a lot about yourself. It really teaches you the importance of endurance, and really sticking to your passion and not allowing those negative thoughts
Yeah.
that people can have, or the doubts that they can have that can creep in and that can cause discouragement. Perhaps we might not see the results that we want immediately, but it's not going to happen overnight. And that's when we have to put in the work each and every day. And I always, someone told me this recently, and they said, you know, when you have a day job, after you leave your day job, you have another job, which is what your passion is, what you want to do. And so you have to put in the work. You have to put in an extra 8 hours or so.
It's exhausting.
It can be exhausting, yes. But at the same time, you have to put in the amount of time into what your passion is too, because you can't stop.
No.
You gotta,
I remember leaving, I'd get out of work, I'd be cooking, and I would get done cooking, and I would run, shower, get dressed, and have to be somewhere in 20 minutes, and we would do what we're doing now, but I just did 8 to 10 hours worth of work, standing on my feet all day, working in a completely stressful environment, dealing with all these things going on with the employee and work and all this other stuff. And then it's like I'd get done, and then everybody would meet up, and we'd start the podcast and go. And I'd be like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. And now I look at it as like, man, all day today, all I did was work and network and do all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, the hard work didn't stop. I'm just now applying 100% of the hard work into myself. And it's like when you start doing stuff like that, you're moving mountains.
Yes, exactly. And that's the mentality that you have to have, especially if you're trying to grow and you're trying to get to where you want to be. You can't stop. You have to put in the work. You have to continue to motivate yourself. Talk to someone that you can talk to, a confidant that you can talk to, a good friend that can help motivate you, encourage you.
You surround yourself with the right people.
Surround yourself with the right people, which is very, very key. You want to have people that are going to be there to support you when you do have your down moments. That's just the reality of pursuing art or pursuing anything that you love doing, is that you're going to have those moments when you are down. But you just look back, you just reflect. And sometimes it just takes reflection, meditating. You just have to reflect and meditate on why you're doing what you're doing and seeing what you can do and what it can be and allowing that to motivate you. And sometimes it goes back to, you have to go back to those, those the positive comments or maybe the feedback that you've gotten so far in regards to what you're doing. Maybe you have to read that to help you to help you to keep going. Maybe you have to look at. I know recently I just got a My City Dance poster personally for myself.
Yeah,
and I have it on my wall in my room.
As you should.
So I turned my room into a business.
Yeah,
right, and I turned it into like what I'm gonna get. Also, what's your story poster? But I'm gonna have these things around me, because this is part of my inspiration. This is what helps.
That's why the studio is the way it is, man.
The way it is, exactly.
The walls are blue because I want to be open and move, and it's just like I have a lot of stuff from my friends down here that remind me to keep going. It's just like every piece of art is moments in time when I wanted to, there were moments in time when I was just kind of like, just at a tattoo convention when I had free time. And it's like every once in a while when I'm down, I'll just kind of like take a stroll around the room or just kind of look at different stuff and be like, hey man, like that's why. And I told you before, it's like, this is my creating ground. And it's like, this stuff has to be around me because then I feel comfortable and calm and I want to create all the time.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be able to, this place was canary yellow. Like that's how it was when we started. And I'm like, and we worked like that for a little bit, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then when I made it flow the way I feel like it flows, when this place is cleaned up and it's going, and like I want to work, It
Yeah.
makes me want to work. I spend a lot of time down here. This will be a point in my life, because this will grow, and it's not going to be down here. And in the next 5 years, it'll be in somewhere bigger, and it'll look different, but it's not going to have the same feel as what it is down here, because this is a point of time where I just sit down here. There's so much that I miss in the real world because I'm down here creating, but this is the important time I need to be down here. And I'll never, in another couple of years, I'll be out of here, and I'll look back on this and be like, man, what a wild ride. How about when I stayed at that studio and I was just down there 12, 15-hour days, some days just staying here till 3, crashing on the couch, getting up and working again. It's like, there's going to be a point when I'm paying people to do the jobs I created down here, but this is a special moment in time that every now and again I try and reflect on it being like, this is a dope place, man. Like, enjoy it. Like, that's what I try and do. But it's like, it's nonstop work. It's nonstop. You should have that My City poster. You should have a picture of every person you ever had on. So when you're down and you're like, oh man, how are we going to make money off this? How are we going to turn this into a thing? How are we going to get to the next level? You look at all your accomplishments. All those skateboards were months that I had. They were every month I got sober. My brother made a different board, and it's like, you need something to tell you to keep going. And if there's people aren't around you telling you that, you need milestones to keep around you all the time.
Yeah, and in each and everything that you have down here, there's a story behind it.
Absolutely.
And
I can go through and tell you every art show I went to, there's a story behind every t-shirt design. I mean, there's a story behind everything down here.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just inspiring. You just have to just keep yourself inspired.
Yeah.
You have to, and that's important.
How can anyone see anything you're doing? How can anyone get to your social media? What is the best places to go? How can they hire you photography? I want you to tell everybody how they can positively affect your life by going to look at the things you have.
Yes. So you can follow me on Instagram, social media, Instagram, Darin Barron Jr. You can also visit my site, darinbarronphotography.com, and then you can go to What's Your Story, the pages on there, and you can see all the stories that have been done, and continue to stay up to date with that. We also have a YouTube page for What's Your Story as well, so you can visit the YouTube channel. My City Dance Series as well. My City Dance Series also has a YouTube channel, so you can also visit that and to see all the different film pieces that are going to be coming in and things like that. There's so many like Facebook. You can go to Facebook, connect with me there. These different platforms, mainly it's YouTube, Instagram, and my site. So, and Facebook as well. So people can connect with me on there as well. And just, whatever, if they have an idea, or if they know someone that has a story that they would like for me to do or to look into, I would love to do it. That's what I really want to try to encourage people to, is that if they know people who have stories to tell.
Yeah, that was the first thing I said to you. I was like, you gotta do the guys from Finishers MMA. I mean, those guys went from living in the gym, and then the athletes that they're pumping out of that school. And I talked to Zach, and they're definitely interested in doing it. But I would immediately was like, man, I know a bunch of people I can shovel to him. And I think it's important that people should reach out I like when people tell me guest ideas. Like Sarah approached me and was like, hey, this guy, I'm doing this project. I think he'd be a killer podcast. Like, I get some of my best guests from people just hitting me up, being like, hey, you should check out my friend. It's cool. That's how you network.
That's how you network. Exactly. So if there's anyone that they know of that would be really interested in doing a story on and really bringing their story to life, I would be more than happy to look into it and to definitely give them those opportunities to really tell their story. And that's what it's about. Having them come on the platform for What's Your Story, or even though they know dancers for My City Dance Series, if they know someone that loves to dance that would be perfect for it, I would love to give them those opportunities. And that's the thing too, is that we have to be able to be willing to give people opportunities and for them to be able to really tell their story, because it's not just encouraging for us, but it's encouraging for them too.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging for those who will be watching as well. So
I will have all of your links in the YouTube and everywhere that we post this. I want to thank you again for coming on. If you're a first-time listener and you want to check out more things that Never Again Studio is doing, you can go to neveragainstudio.com, and that has everything there. It has links to the YouTube, it has links to the podcast, but you can stay on the website. You can watch all the stuff and listen to all the stuff on the website. I have apparel. You can get in touch with me if you're looking to get apparel made. Everything that we do over here and you see, I have access to getting that done. If you'd like to sponsor the show, you can hit me up at neveragainstudio@gmail.com and subscribe to the YouTube. Right now, I'm trying to build that up, and YouTube's a monster in itself, and it's not easy to get people over there, but I appreciate when you guys do. Thank you again, and this is going to be a cool episode. I think it's going to be a lot of really cool motivation, and that's kind of where this whole thing started. So thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you so much, Mike, for having me on.
I believe it.